Take a look here at Hong Kong, the scene just moments ago. There are hundreds of people out in the street again, this time protesting a whole new clampdown by the government there. Protesters will face arrest if they wear a mask to hide their identities.
With the anti-mask law might imposed by the emergency ordinance, I strongly urge the international community to aware on the de facto martial law might apply in Hong Kong soon.
Protest leader Joshua Wong reacting to the news. As you heard, de facto martial law, in his view. It's a law that takes effect tomorrow. It's being introduced after these violent clashes between police and protesters this week that saw an 18-year-old student shot.
Hong Kong is not in a state of emergency, and we are not proclaiming that Hong Kong is entering a state of emergency. But we are indeed in an occasion of serious danger.
Lam saying she is invoking emergency powers, but Hong Kong is not in a state of emergency. Let's go live to Hong Kong now, and reporter Grace Lee, who is right there in the midst of the protest activity. The move from Carrie Lam, Grace, to ban protesters from wearing face masks. Tell us about what people there are telling you about that and what it could all mean for this ongoing protest movement.
Right. Well, Carrie Lam enacted that ban earlier today, and it'll take effect at midnight. But this is Hong Kong's response to that. As you can see, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people out here on the streets, and they've been out here since about lunchtime today, here in central Hong Kong's main financial district. And if you can see them, they're all wearing face masks. They're telling Hong Kong's government that, sure, you can try and impose a ban, but we're not going to listen. And things have been pretty lively here. Hong Kongers have burnt down a sign that was celebrating China's National Day that was still hung up on one of these streets here earlier. And the whole area is kind of filled with smoke now. And of course, they're all marching towards the legislative area. And as you can see, they say that they have no intent of taking the masks off at night when it begins. So essentially, this law might not be effective at all.
So as I watch you, we're just coming in out a little bit of Grace, but that's no problem. We're going to stay right there in the scene. This is quite extraordinary, as they always are now in Hong Kong. But if there is concern that this emergency measure will backfire, what then do we watch for once the law takes effect tomorrow?
Right. How we're able to pass that is through allowing this sweeping emergency law that would essentially let the government take pretty extreme measures here. Carrie Lam, Hong Kong's leader, is now free to pass legislation that would allow her to censor media potentially, or control any transportation here in Hong Kong. So that's pretty unprecedented. It's a pretty draconian law that hasn't been used since about 50 years ago. So that's definitely struck a chord with the protesters here. They're very wary of the fact that they're up against a pretty big machine. But, you know, they're up against Hong Kong's government, but really they say they're up against China's government as well, and that Carrie Lam is acting as a puppet for China. So you'll see a lot of them here are chanting 5 demands, no less. They want to continue fighting for their freedoms here, and for a couple of, they're all looking backwards now. There's police up ahead, along with water cannons and tear gas. So things might be pretty clear in a couple of minutes. You know, the past couple of days we see some pretty heavy fighting between them. More fucked up by protesters, especially on Sunday and Tuesday. Tuesday was China's National Day, where we saw some major clashes. Hong Kong streets are still recovering from that. And now we're seeing this massive protest here today, and it seems like this won't go away anytime soon. It's really, Hong Kong's people are saying that they'll continue fighting for their rights, no matter the cost. And of course, the face mask ban today comes along with a year sentence in jail, potentially, if you're caught wearing a mask, or a $3,000 fine. So I think I've lost you guys. There's some rough connection here.
It is, Grace. I am listening. We're listening in rapt attention there, but we do have a few troubles with the connection, understandably, given the kind of broadband use in that area. Grace Lee, who's in Hong Kong, and as we look there at the scene, here's a new camera angle live for you. You can see, I said hundreds. It is obviously, again, thousands in the streets. And if you look at these protesters, most of them, I won't say all, but the vast majority wearing masks, as Grace was saying. They've done this, A, to protect themselves from tear gas, but also, of course, to shield themselves and hide their identity. Now, under these new emergency powers just invoked overnight, they are banned from wearing such masks and face either jail time or fines, as Grace was outlining. So you can see the response to Carrie Lam's move and invocation. This is how they are meeting that, and it's likely to escalate things even further. Grace, in the midst of what seemed to be a little bit of agitation there. So we'll keep in touch with her and be back to things in Hong Kong if they continue to escalate yet again this week.